We wish you a Merry Christmas.
Stand up.
We wish
You a Merry Christmas. We wish you a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. It is Christmas jumper today. So you come and sing in March. It's rather nice. So if you haven't got your Christmas jumper on, go and get your Christmas jumper and put it on. And let's try and get a little bit in the mood before we have to talk about all the bad news. Dina just came in. You know, Dina, my sister, is the most obsessive theme person, isn't she? She loves a theme.
She loves an anniversary or an event.
An anniversary, an event, a theme. She's come in today because she's
horrified.
A teacher, absolutely horrified that she didn't know it was Christmas jumper day.
I'm horrified.
She is literally, she's like she's 5, isn't
she's
it?
Losing
it was
her
Christmas
touch.
Jumper day and I didn't know.
She's totally lost her touch.
Yeah.
The gingerbread house has gone to her head.
Yes, she's full of herself.
She's got a blockage.
But listen, guys, so we will be talking about Christmas jumpers and how not to be embarrassed by them. Is that
the etiquette of. There are different
etiquette.
types of jumpers for different occasions and different types of people that wear them, and some are right and some are wrong, and some are saying one thing and some are saying others.
So that's what we're going to be talking about a bit later on. We're going to be talking about toxic families at Christmas. And we thought we could just let people just have a bit of a moan and we could have a bit of a wander around it.
Yeah, I'm really keen to have a think about this from the perspective of, I think we all, apart from someone who was on Nadia's live, we all can think of probably someone who's toxic. What makes a toxic family member? What where does the toxicity come from? And can the toxic person be the person accusing other people of toxicity? That's an interesting one.
But first, we have to touch upon the Sara Sharif story, which I think, there's probably not a person in the country whose heart isn't a little broken by this story today, because it's truly, 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 truly horrific.
And this is the young girl, The father and stepmother of the 10-year-old Sara Sharif were found guilty of her murder. We were just running through, and it's just hideous to say that there was a list to run through, but running through the injuries, the items, the instruments, the tools, if you like, that were used as weapons against her. And so her father, Irfan Sharif, 43, stepmother, Bainash Batul, 30, were found guilty on Wednesday, while her uncle, Faisal Malik, was convicted of causing or allowing a child's death.
Oh, that's a strange.
The detective chief superintendent of Surrey Police said he'd never seen such horrific suffering of a young person. I don't think we don't. We're not going to talk through.
No, we're not going to talk through because it's truly just horrific, and that's what we need to know. And if anybody wants to know the details of the abuse that she went through, it's online everywhere.
Now there are a couple of stories that spin out of this.
That face, face, just.
There's an image of her that is literally like one of our.
It's like a mixture of both our children at that age, and when you think about how you couldn't bear a scratch, my finger. This is all my fingers, and it's just how, why, how, why, and I said to Mark, what always frustrates me when we hear these dreadful stories of abuse is the immediate attack on the social services, and we have to point our guns, so to speak, at the government, successive governments that massively underfund social services. A couple of years ago, I read this article about just how underfunded they are, and that a lot of people are absolutely burnt out that worked in social services, have left the profession. They have young, not experienced enough to be carrying huge caseloads, numbers that are just ridiculous. And people turn around and go, bloody social services.
Well, on that note, I just want to throw in a bit of
I feel really
first-hand
sorry
experience.
for social workers.
Well, my mum's girlfriend, for 4 years or so, whilst I was a teenager, we didn't particularly get on very well. It wasn't a rich relationship. But one thing I was acutely aware of living with her was that she was a social worker in Haringey. And this was back, we're looking at, what were we, the 1982 through to 1988. And back then, like she said, the first line of blame is always the social worker. The social workers are held responsible for just some of the worst behavior by humans. And you would be forgiven for thinking, yes, you need systems that pick it up, and that's what social care is about and social workers are about. But I remember her making a point once, and we didn't talk about much, but I remember her making one point once where she said, sometimes no amount of being on the ball can stop things happening if people want them to happen.
Because they haven't got limitless laws.
No.
They can't just smash through a house and... I mean...
That's not to say there aren't huge lapses and areas of improvement and
like every profession.
Mistakes.
Every profession. But what we cannot deny is that they are massively overloaded. They are underpaid, under-supported, undervalued. Yeah. And it's a hugely... valuable job. And how many people are going to want to go into social services knowing this?
And also another thing that's really interesting about this story is when you read into the court case and all the reports and the witness statements and all that kind of stuff, at what point should the responsibility be upon neighbours and those who heard and sensed that things were going wrong? I mean, on the one hand...
Well, I feel very sorry for a neighbour if you do.
Course.
Because you're so torn, aren't you? You're just like... You can almost think you're imagining it. And then you've got the fear of if you could make it worse and all of that. And often in these cases, neighbours have said over and over again that they think...
Well, it says here, accounts from neighbours were shared with the court, including a woman who lived near the home. And this is not to single out this woman in West Byfleet, who recalled shockingly loud sounds of smacking and gut-wrenching screams of young girls. Now, I'm not speaking to what the particularities were of her. She's a witness. She's obviously contributing now. It's easier with hindsight productions, as I call it, is a very, easy thing to pull upon. Well, you could have. Well, you should have.
But also you can hear, like some children scream a lot.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? I mean, Maddie was hilarious, isn't it? It's no joke now that she's an actor. Yeah. You would think she was being...
If you'd just seen me the time I had to bundle her in the car after saying no to McDonald's after a film, you'd have thought I was kidnapping her.
Honestly, it looked like he was kidnapping. She was screaming ahead of... So people question. I get that. I get that. Yeah. And also... maybe even the neighbours have been violent or odd with the other neighbour, might be somebody that's on their own and scared of repercussions. So there is loads of that to consider. But also I think that we do have to, because you can ring Crime Stoppers, you can ring places anonymously. And I think if you really think there is something, I just keep on and on every day. So I've still not seen that child, or the child looked hungry,
I think, you know what I think there is a real case of? I think am I right in saying this, guys? Even when we saw that, do you remember we saw the robbery on that road in Forest Hill and we went to call, and my instinct initially was, don't, because there's two thoughts that immediately come in. Often if it's not someone being hurt in front of you, it's like, don't bother, nothing's going to be done about it. That's the first thought around non-violent. But then I think in a community, even if it's like not a youth or they're not attacking you, the fear would be that somehow they would find out that you've said something and what the repercussions would be for you. So I don't think it's always born of just not caring. Yeah. It's also born of fear.
Don't say too much more of where we were and what was said.
What?
Because I still have that fear.
Oh, I see.
Because we did phone.
Oh, yeah,
we did phone and we said, we've just seen this thing. We've just witnessed it right now and we're driving past. But as I was looking out and I saw the person doing what they were doing, they looked straight into my face through the car window, and I was scared. But we just can't ignore it. It wasn't to a person; it was to a prop. They were basically stealing something. They weren't hurting somebody. But I did call the police. But I tell you what, it was a real lesson for me, because I was actually really nervous, because I was thinking, God, have they seen our number plate? Did they recognise me? So I get it. It's a scary thing. But I think we have to push past it. We know somebody, don't we? One of our friends, and they regularly hear this woman being beaten up in the house, and they don't call. But you see, then people tend to go, well, it's a couple, maybe they're... But I just think, make the call. You've got nothing to lose. Have you got nothing to lose?
One of the other stories that comes out has started to emerge was obviously around homeschooling and Sara Sharif. Obviously, she fell off the schooling records. And there's a piece in the BBC News: parents should not be allowed to home educate a child if it's believed the child is suffering abuse. The Children's Commissioner for England has said, what a self-evident... I mean, I do find this rather... How does this contribute to the debate? Parents shouldn't be allowed to home educate if it's believed the child is suffering abuse. Of course. This isn't of course. That goes without saying.
But again, does the government have systems to allow this to be checked and cross-checked? The thing is, as many of you know, we homeschooled our children for a number of years, and it was the very, very, very best thing that we could have done them. And every day that has proven to us more and more by the way that they're now flourishing and doing well and all that stuff. And there is an amazing community of credible people that homeschool their kids. So we always get really worried with these headlines. Some people just go, homeschooling abuse. And the thing is, you can still be being abused and going to school,
exactly.
I know a teacher who has consistently said that she knows that the child in her class is hungry, is stealing food. That's one of the signs. And she goes to tell the head, and the head regularly says, oh, yes, it's all known about. But there's been nothing changed, but absolutely, if you are on the social worker's radar and suspected of abuse, and you take your child out of school,
of course.
But again, we go back, are there the resources for that social worker to then go? The politicians, they so often come out, give this great big red meat frenzy headline, but do they back up what they're saying? Do they support?
I've come to the conclusion that I think actually some of the least equipped people to lead this country, make decisions and deal with complicated thoughts are politicians. They even have to say most things they talk about 3 times. Education. They say everything 3 times, like we are all fucking Teletubbies. I just want to read a couple of comments here. Leo, I hope you're well, sweetie. I had to call the police on my neighbour's partner. They had massive rows. He beats her, but this time I heard her joking. I couldn't not call. Wow.
Oh, poor you. That's
very
dramatic.
distressing. Yeah, really.
Oh, my God. Imagine. Awful. Jesus.
Erin, social services are really so unhelpful as they are. They sent me back home after my mother threw me out, deemed it a safe place for me to be. It's just not effective, even when they do get involved. Interesting.
And what was your feelings around that? Did you feel that they were overwhelmed? Were they just ticking a box? Did they not care? Sometimes there's just nowhere else to put a child. That's the other thing. Because what they're often dealing with is, and this is what's so heartbreaking, isn't it? So you might be a young person. Let's not talk about a small child. You might be like 14 or whatever. And your parents are like totally over the top with the way that they're treating you. Maybe they're hitting you. But a social worker may have to make these decisions. They may have to go, well, there is food in the cupboard. They are being fed. Yes, they shouldn't be being hit, but I've got 10 children over here that have been starved, that are being this and being that. We just don't know what kind of Rubik's Cube they've got of where they're going to put kids. And sometimes where they'll put you is worse. Do you know what breaks my heart, Mark? Dead on 18, you're out of the system.
I know. This is kind of, isn't it interesting that we have these age brackets for legal reasons, administrative reasons, and they speak to nothing. They don't speak to the truth of being a human.
Most of us have got 18-year-olds. We know that's the time when they need to save them more.
Exactly. Anna-Marie Shellard, there's a miscommunication between the police and social services. Not enough space here to write up here, but so much we all obviously have to say about this vital issue.
Are you a social worker, Anna-Marie?
Oceanic Therapy London. I was grateful to a next door neighbour calling the police during a period of domestic abuse. I was blacked out and the police pushing the door open. I was lying behind it, made me come round.
My God, I'm so sorry you went through that.
Wow. Edward Bevington, my upstairs are abusive. I've seen lack of response to other neighbours too. It's incredible. You need protecting as much as you should. Be independent and empowered.
Wow.
Shauna Roche, we as early as teachers are expected to call parents if they do not notify us as to why a child is absent, investigate injuries, help source food vouchers. If we don't, who will?
But some teachers feed their kids, don't they, in the morning because they know they're not getting breakfast.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. I mean, so many deep worrying connections to such a concept. Obviously, this has spun out of the idea that some of the neighbours of Sara Sharif's family heard a lot of the kind of violence that was happening. It's just, what to do. I think if in doubt, always call and just always seek anonymity.
And this really was extraordinary because they did escape, didn't they? And then they came back. So it's well, well, it's great that they're where they should be, in prison forever, hopefully.
Okay, there's a piece in one of the papers today entitled "Toxic Parents: How to Identify a toxic parent and how to cope with them at Christmas." Obviously, Christmas is a time where members of the family,
list off some of those things.
members of the family all pulled together, and you have to see people that you've not wanted to see for a while, or you feel you ought to, or you feel you have to because they come along with other members of the family, don't they? Maybe they've married into the family or whatever. But this is a piece about what makes a toxic parent or a toxic family member. And just before we kind of look into, I mean, there's a lot in this piece about what is a toxic parent. I found this one description.
But that top couple of lines there,
what did you say? I thought you said something.
So they rarely listen. They're full of their own problems and often imply that you're not quite good enough. Anyone with a toxic parent will find these attributes frighteningly familiar. And we do know those parents that just like, they could even appear to be quite nice, but it's always like, oh, the grave is a little bit, oh, are you doing that? Oh, are you, never really praising or slightly knocking, so that maybe other people don't really pick up on it, but it can go in like a knife, can't it?
Look at this. This is an interesting one. 73 Paula RJRF. My sister is extremely toxic, only towards me. She's flying under the radar. No one sees what she's doing except my son, or if they do, they are under her spell and won't say anything. I am 51.
And do you have to see each other every Christmas?
And here's the thing. Toxicity, I can think of someone else who's related to someone else who, that low level, constant criticism and constant undermining of people happens from parents towards children. But believe it or not, it happens from children towards parents.
My God.
And I think one of the interesting things about this article, and it does go on to sort of describe this, it kind of runs at what makes a toxic person. One of the psychotherapists in this piece, Saul Hillman, says it has the word toxic has infiltrated our everyday culture, and unlike actual mental health or neurodivergent conditions that have clear diagnostic classifications, toxic is a subjective and blurred phenomenon. And I do think the article goes on to talk about the idea that with the increase of kids going through therapy and understanding of social media therapy, narcissism,
words get thrown around.
Words get thrown around and bandied around quite easily. And I think it's easy it would be easy, for example, for a child who doesn't like being told what to do, to say that their parents were toxic because they were simply suggesting something that they should do.
We would never have had that word, would we? No. I bet in the 70s, if we'd had the word toxic, we all would have said that at some point our parents were toxic, like when they would give us a slap or when they would, because you did in the 70s, didn't you? You got hit. I mean, we didn't ever get beaten up or anything like that, but we got the traditional whack sometimes, not all the time. I mean, imagine that now. I mean, and I don't agree with smacking. We've never smacked our children. But also, a lot of times parents are just trying their best and failing to give the best from the perspective of that other person. So our best to our children may feel like absolute rubbish.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that's why we always say to our children, we are adult children doing everything for the first time.
Absolutely.
And really like fumbling our way through and finding our way through.
I mean, I think one of the things I find, and I think this is true for narcissists, and I think the piece does talk about how narcissism comes close to those kind of that kind of toxicity within a family. Passive aggressivity, that's one thing.
Real banter that can get out of hand, and you're not necessarily. But for instance, when I think back sometimes to how we were with my dad, we were all women in the house. He has this fabulous accent. And it used to make us laugh so much. We were constantly doing his accent. It was so funny. And Dina is the most brilliant impersonator. And this went on for years and years. And then one day, my dad flipped a bit and went, and I can't remember exactly what was said, but we were like,
oh, bless him.
Oh, my God.
Right.
Has he been upset with some of this? We had no idea.
Right.
But that probably, and we went on to, and we still impersonate him all the time, but it was a moment. But I remember thinking, oh my God, has he felt almost bullied? If you think of the word toxic, he could have felt and said in those days, oh, it was very toxic around.
Yeah.
But we didn't know. We were just like, that's out of hand banter.
And I think that happens in a lot of families. And it actually, in very female dominated families, it can happen. It happens in a friendly way. I caught it. But, you know, it's that idea that all the girls feel like, oh, he's the bloke and he's being a bit bloke and he's the man. And then it can get a bit, after a while, it can wear a bit thin.
Yeah, and sometimes when you guys do it, I never say anything, but because I'm always saying about myself, oh, I'm a bit stupid, I'm disorganized, I'm this and that. And then sometimes...
read your comments out.
And then sometimes it's like a bit much when it's coming back from all of you at the same time, and I start to feel a bit... But I know nobody is doing it.
No.
And I suppose that goes back to communication when we just say, oh, guys, most of the time I find this funny, but sometimes it's a little bit.
I think
it doesn't build resentment.
Yes, I agree. I think some of the things that suggest to me when I'm around people and I think, oh, God, you're really quite toxic, is when every single topic of conversation pivots back to their experience of either it or them having done something that's somehow better than what you've done. So, for example, you've gone to see, I don't know, a football match. They've been to a bigger, better, more dramatic football match. You like this artist, this musician. Well, they've got tickets to see. You know, there are people who are constantly, everything you share with them or talk about with them has to pass through the lens of how their experience is that much more important or better. Something else that's
mother-in-laws often at Christmas.
Yeah.
If their sons have left them, that can be quite a toxic thing.
Yeah, bitchy comments, snide comments, unsettling comments, back. This is
advice being given when you don't want it. If you've got a new baby or you're cooking your gravy.
Absolutely. And this phrase we don't use often enough anymore. Backhanded compliments.
Yeah.
The backhanded compliment with an arched tone is the mainstay of Christmas dinners, isn't it? Where someone says something and you go, that was really nasty, but everyone's eating their sprouts and they've all got their Christmas hats on and no one wants to ruin things.
Sounds like that.
But secretly you want to sink a knife into Nanny's thigh. Do you know what I mean? It's that kind of situation. But also the most important one for me with parents is zero self-awareness. And without wishing to quote Ray Fiennes, again from Conclave, it's people with such certainty about everything they say.
I thought it was Gandhi.
No, we talked about it the other day. This is from the film Conclave, where he talks about faith. You need doubt, but also he said the threat to faith, the biggest threat to faith, or belief, or spiritual connection with each other is certainty. And if you've got someone around the table who's sitting there going, "This is," and we all know them, they just say, "This is it," and this is the way it is.
You know, the other kind of toxicity I hate at Christmas when somebody wants to give you a schedule in your own house. If you're not a schedule person, I thought we were eating at 4. Yeah, but it might be 5. And there's plenty of stuff to. Oh, but I thought it's that rigidity. Yeah. Oh, if you're a free flowing person and someone is rigid, oh my God, it's
lots of comments coming up. Do you want to read this one?
Bridget, my parents are exactly this way towards me, and now my kids. Just me and my boys in our family group now. Christmas holidays can be tough, but at least my boys won't have to be broken by them. Wonderful. That's so wonderful. And it's funny, isn't it? Because something that you might have heard or said to you when you're younger that has just, in a way, I suppose you're desensitized, when it's said to your child, oh my God, it's like, it can feel like a burn, can't it? It's so weird that.
Zoe, hi Zoe. Dealing with a toxic parent has taken so much of my happiness, ripped it from me. I love my family, but she has ruined so much. She just doesn't like me as a person. It's very difficult.
Oh,
sweetie. Look at this. This is really funny, but if it wasn't Faith Goodman, 11 is what we call it when you say you went to Tenerife. They went to 11 just to make out they're better than you. And
oh my God, I love that.
I'm going to use that. Other comments here. Kirsty J. Oh no, did you just read that one? No, my sister-in-law refuses to come to any family event birthdays, refused to come to my dad's funeral, never see her, but she sends a list of gifts her and her husband want for Christmas.
Shut the front door.
Oh, my God. Cam.
Oh, my God.
Cam, by the way, if anyone wants to know what a spilt cup of coffee looks like in a live chat form, check out Cam's last 6 posts. He just went gobbledygook and then he went, I've just spilt my coffee. My sister and her mother-in-law have equal hatred for each other and it's absolute comedy gold.
That's a good way to look at it. Yeah. So do you just sit back and watch it like it's a show?
It's like the Royal Family. Yeah, I get you. You know, the show, not the Royal Family, the Royal Family. My sister... 73 Paula JRF. My sister did charades and gleefully chose a film to do. She stood there and just pointed at me. My brother said, sister, woman, ugly, and she nodded and laughed. It was the good, the bad, and the ugly. That is not nice.
But is that...
Or is that banter?
I don't know, because sometimes, with your family, you think you can say anything. Dina still hits me. like when we were 9.
And Lee and me, and doesn't she here? Christopher.
Dina, there's nothing Dina wouldn't say now that she would have said when she was 6.
No, she says no, exactly. And then like a 6-year-old, she skips. She did this morning. Funny. She skipped around the kitchen.
She's the funniest.
Yeah.
There is not another person that is even vaguely like her.
Christopher Gundle, Christopher's just apologised. He can't wear a jumper today on Christmas jumper day. It's 35 degrees where he is in Australia. God. We'll never forget when we had a very toxic boyfriend of my sister propose to her on Christmas Day. It was horrendous. We all had to play along as we didn't want her to run away or push away from us.
But you didn't.
Here's part 2 of 2. Oh, hang on.
What happened next?
It was all on film.
Oh, my God.
It was horrendous. And he stayed for the rest of the holidays until it turned really sour. And we had to get on the first flight back home. I've still got that film.
Oh, Shazzy.
Christopher. Oh, my God.
Oh, wow. God, yeah. Oh, God, yeah. Stealing the Christmas day with the proposal in front of everybody. Bit weird.
But also the other really important thing,
But not if it's really loving family and you all know that you're happy, then it's joyful. Yeah.
But also do remember, parents, you can have children that accuse you of toxicity. You can have toxic children. I do think in this over-therapized era that we live in, there's almost an assumption that if a younger person of a family, and that can be a grown-up child as much as a younger child, whatever a grown-up child says because they're the child is right. It's not right. At a certain point, you are all adults in this world. And parents, children, regardless of what your relationship is, you deserve and should expect similar respect. You are not automatically always the victim of toxicity as a grown-up child if a grown-up parent says something that you perhaps don't like or agree with. And I think it's important to not always feel like, oh, my God, am I on the back burner here? Am I being somehow told that I'm awful? They haven't always got it right, kids. And I think we have a dangerous generation, potentially, who've been told every feeling they feel is valid. And not every feeling you feel is valid. You might feel it.
To work it out.
You might feel it, but sometimes it's about it not being right. Not everything we feel is right. We get anger. It's about how we manage anger, not express it. Natasha, hi Natasha. My dad comes for dinner, starts drinking before we even sit down, then falls asleep on our one sofa that we should all have space to sit on, snoring his head off. Such fun. Oh, Natasha. Do you know what? That describes how I could have been and would have been if I hadn't stopped drinking.
Wow.
Wow.
And, the thing is, we can say, not this year. We can say that.
Yeah. Why not try that?
Thought.
Yeah, try it.
We can say, not this year. We just want it to be just us. We can say that.
I don't want to frighten anyone, but this image might shock for a number of reasons. It is an affront to the festive season. This is not the Crankies in a jumper.
Ashley.
This is a Christmas jumper, for those of you listening, with an angel on top being worn by, what's her name? I've forgotten her name. What's her name?
I'm just trying to remember.
Oh my God, what's her name, guys? Nicola Sturgeon.
Sturgeon. I was going to say Duffet.
I was so in the
phone call.
No, not the phone call. I was so
that's
in
going to
the
be work, begging me to work.
that was so in the. I was so in the. Oh, what are they? The Crankies.
Yeah.
The Crankies.
So Christmas jumper day today. In case you joined late, we are in our Christmas jumpers. Now, I love a Christmas jumper, but if I'm going to be really honest, I do find December quite difficult because Mark wears them all the time, and some of them are unbelievably ick.
What makes a good jumper? Well, let me just show you a couple of others.
This one he's about to put on makes me feel sick.
Look at.
Oh God,
what's his name?
Okay?
That's the tennis player, Andy Murray.
Oh my God.
He doesn't look happy.
Oh, we've got one of those somewhere with the fire. We've got to get our other bag down.
Yeah, other bag down. That's Andy Murray.
I do like ones with action. Mylene always looking $1 million. That's quite a good one.
Ryan Reynolds was invited to a party by Jake Gyllenhaal and Hugh Jackman, and they said it's wear your jumper. No one else wore one.
Oh, I love that. What
fun?
A great jumper. You could just do that with an ordinary jumper, couldn't you?
Great, isn't it? There's Taylor Swift.
Oh, come on. That's not entering into the spirit.
Everything about
like,
that
I'm
makes
still
me
going to
want
look perfect. Come on. You've got to look stupid. Is this the one where you're sitting on the toilet? Oh, yeah. Look.
Do you know seeing Taylor Swift in that photo? Do you know what, the bag and everything about it made me want to put my head in the door jamb and slam it repeatedly hard until my eyes came out. No, it's just Jamie Oliver. What about
I think I don't like it when people do, oh, I'm going to do a classy suit.
Beckham with a Let It Snow.
Snow.
That's electric, isn't it?
I like that one.
I'm gonna
right, this one is so disgusting, and it gives me the ick the whole time he's got it on. It's so horrible. Be prepared. There is no way that you can. And he wears this out, and I'm supposed to walk along with him.
I'm going to wear this to New Bond Street.
And people go, oh, that's that Nadia Sawalha off the telly. And who's that weirdo she's with?
That's her husband, Mark Adderley, off the YouTube.
It really makes me feel sick. No. Oh, Mark. Bing, bing, Does anyone feel sorry for me?
Give us a hug.
Zoe's got the ick.
Come on, I can floss your teeth with my chest hair.
Oh, it's horrible. It's the pink, I think.
It's a piggish
It's
pink.
sort of willy pink.
My willy isn't this colour.
It's kind of a willy pink.
Fluorescent pink.
It's gross, Elaine says. Thank you. Please don't wear that anymore. I really, really hate it. No, it gives me the ick.
It gives us static.
No, don't come. You can't come near me with it on.
Revolting, says Lisa.
It is funny though.
Sorry, Lisa.
Look, that hanging through the nipples. It's so disgusting.
At least with this one, the nipples are on my chest. I've got another
Elaine
one where
says
the
it's
nipples
so bad. I love it. Elaine, shall I send him round to you then?
Zoe, get it in the
Give us
bin.
your address,
Elaine,
and whenever he's got it on, I'm going to send him round to you.
Anyway, it's Christmas jumper day, so if you don't wear one, you're a bar
You're
humbug.
miserable.
Anyway, guys, that's your lot. We're gonna obviously you're gonna see Vlogmas later, and check out my trailer reaction to 28 Years Later, which I did last night.
So if you don't know what Vlogmas is, because you haven't joined the party yet, it's our daily family Christmas reality show, and this year it has turned into a full-on sitcom.
Slay Queen has just joined as a member. There will be a live Sunday show this Sunday morning, so
Hi,
you will enjoy that
Let's
with us.
do a welcome song. Welcome, Slay Queen. Welcome, Slay Queen. Welcome to the family guest.
Slay Queen. You would not have any idea what this room looked like only 2 hours ago.
It's all coming in the vlog.
Yeah,
there was
don't
a
worry.
disaster.
All right, guys, lots of love. I'm going to go and scratch my baubles.
Bye.